This is just another example of the deep state trying to shut us down. So that's why we're going full bore, free to anyone who wants to see it. Go to mysonhuntermovie.com or go to the My Son Hunter Twitter handle. You can see it there. Thank God for Elon Musk. Hello and welcome to the Anne and Phelim Scoop. It's just me today, Phelim McAleer. Unfortunately, Anne is not available. She's travelling today. We have big news about the Hunter Biden movie and Hunter Biden in general. We are going to be releasing the Hunter Biden movie for free across the planet. This is the movie they don't want you to see. Wait till you hear what happened with Congress and the Congressional Visitor Center. These people are shameless. They're censorious. They're awful. We're going to give you the full details. You won't believe it. We're also going to discuss the releasing of the movie for free. We're going to talk with director Robert Davi also. So let's first of all go to the My Son Hunter movie. What a story. As you know, it's the story of Hunter Biden, the Biden family corruption, written by Brian Godawa, directed by Robert Davi. But the story, since we've made this movie, the story has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. There's now congressional investigations into it. And it's never been more important that people know the facts. So what better way to know the facts than to really show a docudrama in the halls of Congress so congressional staffers, congressmen, and interested people can come along and learn more about Hunter Biden in an easy and accessible way. So we wanted to put the movie on in the Congressional Visitors Center, which has an auditorium for movies for this very purpose. And we worked with Lauren Boebert, Congresswoman Lauren Boebert. She tried to make the booking. But boy, does the deep state not want this story out here. You will not believe it. So basically, they wrote back and said, absolutely no way. For the following reasons: audiovisual presentations, these are the rules, to include plays must have a clear connection to legislative business and be incidental to the overall program or event, right? So it has to be incidental. It can't be, well, we were going to have a Q&A afterwards, but no. So, and then excerpts of films rather than full-length showings are encouraged, as an audiovisual presentation must be incidental to the overall program or event. So you think, okay, well, showing a movie, that could be, it's not really incidental. Why wouldn't you show excerpts? Except they have broken this rule time and time and time again. Listen to me. The Congressional Visitor Center have broken this rule. The deep state who run these establishments have broken this rule time and time and time again. And you won't be surprised to know that they've broken it time and time and time again for liberal projects, to cover leftist movies, to show leftist movies. They broke, there was a movie called the Eat Up film, which promotes the idea of free school meals. Full movie. There was a movie called Koch Brothers Exposed. You can guess what kind of attitude that had to the world. Full screening also. Hidden Figures, the movie about black women getting into the NASA rocket program. Again, a political movie during a highly politically, racially charged time. Showed the full movie. That's a commercial movie. That wasn't even part of there's no doubt about it. Our movie, My Son Hunter, is educational. None of those movies were particularly. Well, I suppose Hidden Figures is certainly not educational. It's commercial, and that's another one of the reasons. They said audiovisual presentations must be educational in nature. There's nothing more educational than a docudrama based on facts, based on transcripts. And you know what we do. We work on transcripts. So this is just another example of the deep state trying to shut us down. So that's why we're going full bore, free to anyone who wants to see it. Go to mysonhuntermovie.com or go to the My Son Hunter Twitter handle. You can see it there. Thank God for Elon Musk. So to discuss the movie, to discuss the free release, we're going over now to the director of My Son Hunter, Robert Davi. Let's go over to that interview. And we're joined by the maestro himself, Robert Davi, the director of My Son Hunter. You know Robert as the director of My Son Hunter, but he is a veteran Hollywood actor and a director as well. I recently was on a plane and I decided to watch Die Hard, the original Die Hard, which is a great, great movie. and there was Mr. Davi playing an obnoxious FBI agent. He was a Bond villain. He's just really been in Hollywood and at the center of Hollywood for 40 years.
45 years.
45 years. Wow. Okay. An amazing career, and we were so lucky and privileged to have him direct My Son Hunter. Welcome to the show, Robert.
Well, it's great to be here. Great to see you, Phelim, and be part of this project, of course, that I think is crucial to not only to America, but to the world. My Son Hunter, a film that you and Unreported Story Society produced.
I mean, there's a lot of people involved in it from all along, especially many of the people watching, they funded it as well. And we thank you. We do. And we just, and I think that we delivered what they wanted, what this deserved, not what they wanted, but what this project deserved. You know, Hunter Biden, we're sitting here, and again, every revelation about Hunter Biden just shows you what the media didn't cover, how America was shortchanged during the 2020 election and since then. I mean, so much that's in that movie, and so much that Brian Godawa wrote in that movie. It's coming out in congressional reports now, media reports now. It's all there. And we had all that information. So did the media, but they didn't cover it. So I suppose, welcome to the show, Robert. It was probably a difficult project for you because it's part documentary but part movie. How did you straddle that thing where you want it to be factual but you want to be entertaining as well?
Well, there were several films that had done true stories, one being Wolf of Wall Street, one also be The Big Short, and then also for me, the benchmark was American Hustle, David Russell film about the FBI sting on the ab scam. And looking at those pictures, they had they were dramatized, but they were all factual and stretching the truth in somewhat. So what I wanted to do was take it from a dry aspect of and to create a life, to have all the characters come alive instead of just going from bit to bit. And but it was, we had a great cast. We had a terrific cast. Lawrence Fox played a brilliant Hunter Biden, and John James as Joe. And I didn't want Joe. A lot of the things, Phelim, and I get upset with the media because they keep harping on the weakness of Joe Biden, the addledness of Joe Biden. And I think it's the dumbest waste of breath that all these pundits use, because the guy has been in politics for 50 years. I think whether or not we want to think he's there or not there, he's like a mafia don. He would be like Carlo Gambino, and the other guy that they said was nuts, but was running the mafia from in front of everyone. And I think there's part of that here. And I didn't want to have this poor guy stuffling along because I wanted the threat of it, of him being formidable, which he is.
Yeah. I remember when this was just starting off, discussing this with Brian Godawa, the writer, and I mean, it was obvious to us and to him, like you can't portray. First of all, you can't portray Joe Biden as a bumbling, senile idiot, because who wants to laugh at someone who's got dementia? That's not funny, if you know what I mean. It's not even dramatic. He knows what he's doing. He may not remember the names of everyone he's supposed to remember, but we know Joe Biden, the politician, is a hardcore politician and has hardcore ideological beliefs. And he's been a politician longer than anything else. That's most prominent in his brain. All the rest of the brain can fade away. He will keep with his hardcore ideological beliefs. And so we didn't want to, none of us wanted to laugh at Joe Biden, his memory issues, or that. We wanted people to show that this is there has to be an element of danger in it. And look, the Congress has just issued a report. James Comer has just issued it. The 10, and then look, if you put up there, I want to put up a headline, Politico saying, Comer didn't find Joe Biden received any money. His family received $10 million, and Politico admit this, $10 million from foreign entities and foreign nationals. That's how you bribe a politician nowadays. The old days you would bribe the politician. Now you bribe their family, their extended family. These are dangerous times, and I think we summed that up well in the movie.
Well, it is dangerous, and it's kind of again bringing back to the Mafia Don thing. When you're in politics, as long as Joe Biden has been, and I didn't want him to be addled, as none of us did, but I removed some of the funny stuff that made him seem a little bit. I think of The Godfather, and think of the relationships he has politically, and and around the world. This is what Joe Biden is. I found it interesting that he took his son to Ireland, and I don't know what that was about. And I have to say that when we were shooting in Serbia, Hunter Biden was there a month before, where we were shooting at the same hotel. And then his lawyers show up later on. So there is a wide-reaching corruption that the media is the most disgusting group of people that we've ever had. And I have to say, a lot of Hollywood is the same, because they refuse to see the truth and to speak the truth. Because here it was, the Russian disinformation that Adam Schiff and everybody else did with Trump. They have refused to say the truth about Biden. How can you be on a plane ride? You're my son, you're my father, you're the smartest man I know, from America to China to wherever, and not discuss one piece of business or what the agenda is or who you're going to meet and what might they want and what can we get? And now you're saying 9 family members, and it's like Joe Biden is clean. He should be dragged out of office by his hair. They should drag him out of office by his hair if we had the right kind of people in, because it's corrupt. So should Pelosi, so should Schiff. Anyway.
I'm not sure that's his hair, though. I think it belongs to some.
Well, it was transplanted hair, but that's okay. I got transplants myself. It's okay. But I mean, it's terrible that we let this gentleman parade around and say the most disgusting things, even in terms of his yesterday at Howard University. Again, the whitewashing of everything, that MAGA supremacist and white supremacist. He says this at a black school, at a black university where thinkers are out there and they're cheering him on. And it's disgusting, because look at Joe Biden's record of things and the things he said in the past.
Look, I mean, my family at home, some of my relations, they always go, they talk about Republicans are racist and that, and I go, and they talk about, they try and say, look at the history of America and the civil rights movement, and I'm going, yeah, it was terrible what those Democrats did, wasn't it? And they look at me like I've got 2 heads, and I'm going, every time you see that black and white footage of black people getting hit with batons and dogs setting them on fire hoses and water hoses and all, and being attacked walking into universities and schools and desegregation and all that, every one of those elected officials was a Democrat, not a Republican.
Look, both parties are guilty of many things. And what you have is the CCP, funded by the United States of America, that have infected us with critical race theory. First it was Common Core, and the idea of splitting us up through color, through sex, through transgender, splitting the fabric of America up, the e pluribus unum, into these little factions, is an absolute, the intersectionality of the churches, of even churches that are now liberation theology that's crept into some of that, the social justice aspect of it all. It's very dangerous what's happening in the world for this 2020 reset, and Biden is at the forefront of it.
Exactly. I mean, look, I know it sounds like one of those talking points of the Biden crime family, and when we were making the movie, you don't want to be one of those people kind of shouting at the clouds, but like, this is an unbelievable family, right? And I think what you did and what Brian did and what we all tried to do was make them human beings. That was one thing we wanted to do, was make them human beings so that people can understand human beings are corruptible. And I watched, I think I watched when we were at the premiere in that theater in here in LA. And I watched it on a screen with great sound, in it with a crowd, and that scene, that long scene of Joe and Hunter in the car, and Hunter being human and Joe being human, but deeply corrupt at the same time. It brought a tear to my eye. It's a very very moving scene because you get to see the human beings, and it's not. Hunter Biden's an addict. Hunter Biden is not a good person, but it's actually the media and his family for not calling him out, for giving him all these passes, for not making him face the consequences of his actions. They're the guilty ones as much as Hunter Biden.
Yeah. Well, addiction is a terrible thing in many families. My family has been plagued by it. I've had certain family members. It's very difficult. It's difficult reining them back in. And there's a certain, but I'm not the president of the United States sending my son over to do negotiations with the Chinese spy chief or Burisma or the mafia. I'm not doing that. You know what I mean? You're not letting that happen. And the relationship between father and son, where you find that he's out of touch, especially that scene when Joe goes off on, he went to school in a black college and he did with corn pop, and the son says, Dad, we were talking about suffering. And he goes, well, you didn't suffer as much as I did. I mean, who knows if that conversation, parts of that conversation actually happened, but who knows how it happened. But the important thing is to see the film as a movie and to be entertained. And there's no judgment. There's really no judgment. If this was a film that was done by somebody from, so let's say the great Rob Reiner, and he was doing it on the Trumps, even when they haven't done films and they've had characters that are conservative, they caricature them terribly. With it's terrible. So this doesn't do that. This gives you a film, and at the end, which people are now saying, Phelim, when our Grace, our lead girl, because it's told through the eyes of a 25-year-old girl, she finally comes to the conclusion that maybe he wanted this to happen. Maybe Hunter wanted his father to be found. And now people are starting to sniff around that and mention something like that. And we did in the film. And I think it was imperative on all of us to want to humanize these characters, and even Hunter's drug addiction and the problems that he had, because it engages you in a different way. You then get drawn into the characters. If you're caricature, you step away from. But here we brought it in. If a Rob Reiner had directed a film about the Trump kids, for instance, and he's a great director, they would be commenting on the character and not portraying the character.
Yeah, no. Who wants to make a movie? Who wants to create any work of art that is just talking points or just villains with twirly mustaches? It's like it's such a waste of time. I think and you know you're right. They and I remember this when we did. Actually, the critics actually commented on this in between. Their criticism of it. That we strangely humanized Hunter Biden, and then I remember when we did the FBI Lovebirds play. People says accidentally humanized Strzok and Page, and I'm going, okay, so we accidentally humanized Strzok and Page, the FBI conspirators. We accidentally humanized the Bidens. Maybe it wasn't an accident. Maybe this is what we do. And maybe that's the right thing to do is to make these people human so that people can understand. I mean, villains being corrupted is no surprise. Humans being corrupted is an interesting story, and we wanted to tell an interesting story.
If you look at what Joe Biden is saying again, I have to go back to his Howard. It really offended me. This speech at Howard University, where he brings up white supremacy and MAGA extremists. Now, I don't know anybody that's either of those. But I know people that have issues on the left that have no more friendships because they're prejudiced or bigoted because of your political beliefs. We have a thing called diversity, equity, and inclusion, or diversity, inclusion, and equity, because it spells die that way. But it's a beast that can never be fed. That stuff just keeps rolling over on itself. You can't feed that. There's no way out. No way.
And I mean, this is why they have to invent microaggressions, because when you have basically one of the most tolerant countries on the planet, but you want to keep feeding the racist narratives, you have to go from macroaggressions, which no longer exist, to microaggressions, which are really invented offense. It's really I say something to someone else, and someone else goes, well, to me, in my twisted mind, I think that's offensive, and I'm going, well, I didn't know that, and the other person goes, I didn't know that. Well, then we didn't mean anything by it, so I can't help what's going on in your mind. But is it 10 years after a black president was reelected, we're still pretending that there's a race problem in America?
It's ridiculous. It's absurd, and white folk let them get away with it. We let them get away with it because we don't want to be called racist.
Well, white folk are the biggest promoters of this. The white liberal guilt, but also liberals do it or leftists do it to divide America, and because they see they can pick up the scraps from the divisions. That's where they get their votes and their funding, is to create division, is to exacerbate and create division.
Absolutely, and there's some great videos. I just saw a video by the Sovereign organization on the Trojan horse, and they explain. James Lindsay and Michael explain extensively this whole thing and how it started. And it started 60 years ago, and how it's crept in, and the danger of it, and that there's no way out, really. So unless we stop it now. And Biden, by going there, he should be censured by and the Republicans are weak. Look, they wouldn't even, they didn't give a screening of this film because they have no spine. They have no spine. They should have hosted a DC screening of My Son Hunter. Because if you look at the media, if you look at I watch the media, I watch things, but we made it into a movie. We put it into culture. It's not just hardened facts and yes and the same thing. But yet none of them, because everyone is franchised in this disgusting way, will say, you have to see the movie of My Son. Some have. Rudy Giuliani has. Cat Turd has. Many people have, actually, Benny Johnson. But a lot of them have not, and maybe once, but they should bring it up. They could show clips.
This is exactly. This is the difference. When the left release their awful movies, their awful political movies, it's a full court press from the left. Everyone's recommending it to everyone. Everyone's cross promoting it. There's no idea that those guys are bringing it out, so we're kind of a rival to them. We're not going to mention it. Everyone, there's no idea that that because it's a rival newspaper or a new rival outlet that might be behind it, that they're not going to mention it. It's promoted left, right, and center. But you talked earlier about the Trumps, and can you imagine if Congress came out with a report and said Donald Trump is not corrupt, but Donald Trump got no money, but his family, his close family, got 10 million from foreign nationals. I mean, they were trying to make scandals out of the fact that foreign nationals stayed at the Trump Hotel, right? Can you imagine
any little thing they made a thing of?
Yes,
any little thing.
Can you imagine if they had evidence that Don Jr. and Ivanka got 10 million from foreign nationals from Russia and China and the Ukraine? Can you imagine if Don Jr. was the head of a pro-Russian oil and gas company based in eastern Ukraine? I mean, they'd be accusing him of starting the Russian war, starting the Russia-Ukraine war. Hunter Biden skates away. He made millions.
Because they've all in the payroll, both sides. Look, at the only thing I can come up with, and maybe someday it'll come out, both sides are guilty. No one is innocent because the complacent quietness about it all. They know they're all dirty. And when you're all dirty, when you've all done something, how do you then go holier than thou? Because it'll come back and bite you. They'll say, well, what about this guy? Then if they start really investigating, well, it wasn't only Joe's family, you know. These are the 9 guys we found, but guess what? Because it's unconscionable to me that we let our government get like this. You know, it's unconscionable to me that we can have a bill that has 4,000 pages in it. How come there's not one bill and one vote? That I don't understand. That could be done quickly. Are you up or down, up or down? But when they put 5,000 pages, and no one wants to change that because
Well,
we're on this great reset.
they're all benefiting from it. So we're going to release the movie on Twitter, but also we're going to go to, if you can get it, also by going to My Son Hunter Movie.
MySonHunterMovie.com.
But we're also going to put it on Twitter, Robert, which was important for us because, you know, Elon Musk is one of the people. And Twitter was so involved, pre Elon Musk Twitter was so involved in leading the censorship of this story, in pushing the story that this was Russia disinformation, which now, by the way, looks like that story was started by Blinken, who was in the CIA at the time, and it came from the intelligence services to former intelligence members who used and abused their position to push a false political narrative. By the way, even if it was a true political narrative, I'm not even sure they should have done it, but a false political narrative to get a certain person elected. They covered up corruption.
Yeah, think of that.
The story is just amazing. This should be front page every day. But we're putting this on Twitter. We're putting it.
And thank you, because you know I've tweeted out little scenes and little bits and pieces and little, because I said I'm very frustrated that the most important story in the world is being largely not being seen, and the response I get from people. Some people have seen it. Some people, where can I see this? So there's a hunger for it. If we can, and I urge everyone listening to this and everyone else to just tell your friends about it, because if it's on mysonhunter.com, mysonhuntermovie.com, or it's on Twitter, you have to see the film. It's entertaining, and now all of a sudden you'll get a different perspective of this whole thing that sometimes is very dry, and you only get 2 minutes of it on a news program.
No. One thing you can say about this movie is it's not dry.
No, it's not dry. You'll cry and you'll get. It's provocative.
It's provocative. It certainly is provocative. It's mature content, I suppose, as well.
Yes, there's no nudity, but there is. Look, you're dealing with a guy that you see what Hunter's lifestyle was. I wasn't going to, pretend it was angelic. So we show something of it, but it's done very tastefully. It's
There's no nudity. There is drug use. There is look, you can't tell Hunter Biden's true life story without breaking a few eggs to make that omelet. But I'm happy that we did it in a way that shows his degeneracy, but doesn't push it in your face. So thank you very much, Robert, for coming on the show. MySonHunterMovie.com. It's also going to be on Twitter on the My Son Hunter Twitter account. It's important that people watch us. Please watch it. Please leave your comments on the YouTube channel. Also, leave your comments on Twitter. Please forward it to anyone who you think needs to see it, because, as Robert said, it's a great way of getting the lowdown on this story, because it's factual, but it ain't dry.
And it's told through the eyes of a 25-year-old left-wing exotic dancer. And she meets up with Hunter. So the story unfolds through her relationship with him. So there's another deeply human element to the whole story, because as we know now, and I think we mentioned it in our film, we should have done even more so now in retrospect. At one time we thought of, remember, say her name. And we didn't do that piece about his granddaughter. And this has now recently become even more poignant, that the Bidens refuse, this great Catholic grandpa refuses to say that this is his granddaughter. What kind of character does that? And so it hits all the notes in this film.
Yeah, yeah. No, no. Listen, look, you could make 5 movies about Hunter Biden. I mean, even
Somebody wants to do a TV series. They asked me, would we do a My Son Hunter TV series? I says, I'll ask.
that'll be a wonderful idea, and maybe release it on Twitter. Actually, that'll be interesting.
Right? They asked.
I mean, Twitter. The issue with Twitter is that 60 minutes is the maximum video you can put on, but which is why we're putting this movie out on
2 parts.
2 parts. But that'll be interesting. A TV series on Hunter Biden.
Twitter could be an amazing platform because it's so accessible. I hope this new CEO, who is a World Economic Forum person, she is in that tank, and I hope that what happened before doesn't happen again.
Yeah, so do I. No, it's an amazing platform, and we hope that it continues to be amazing because we need more conversation, not less, and that's why we made the My Son Hunter movie. So go to mysonhuntermovie.com. You can watch it on Twitter on the My Son Hunter Twitter handle. Thanks very much, Robert, and hope to talk to you soon.
Thank you, Phelim, and thank you, everyone, and thank you, Magda, who is behind the scenes, but she's the one that grabbed me into this piece and recommended me for it. And it was a great experience meeting all of you, and we had a fun time working together. We had our, for those of you that like little behind-the-scene peeks, we've had tug of wars. None of us are very easy personalities, and when you put that mix together, it creates something very special. And we had a fun time, a good relationship, and a lot of fun just feeling free with each other in terms of expressing our differences.
Yes, I couldn't agree with you more, Robert. And it was a pleasure working with you in every way, and I mean that even the arguments were pleasurable.
Yeah. Well, that's when I went into my Irish accent, and I would combat you with that.
That's racist. That was racist abuse. That was okay, Robert. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Right. Blessings.
Yeah, I suppose making a movie is kind of like childbirth. You kind of forget the pain, or the pain actually turns out to be worth it, I suppose. But no, it was a very seamless process in many ways. Apart from being spied upon by Hunter Biden's lawyers, I wonder whatever happened that ethics complaint that I put in to the Los Angeles Bar Association, California Bar Association. I put in an ethics complaint because Hunter Biden's lawyer came on the set posing as a documentary filmmaker, and boy, a complete breach of lawyers' ethics. And I made the complaint 8-9 months ago. Zero, zilch. I got the odd letter every so often saying we're changing the investigator, changing the lawyer. Nothing. This is another example of the establishment protecting itself. They're shameless. So please send the link around for our movie to as many people as possible. We need people to see this, and the truth will set you free. And that's why we're giving out the My Son Hunter movie. Go to mysonhuntermovie.com. That's mysonhuntermovie.com. Or go to Twitter, the My Son Hunter movie Twitter handle. Let us know what you think of the movie in the comments below. Let us know what you think on Twitter. And look forward to talking to you next week. Bye.